We are back in from the break, folks, on the hottest show on the streets, best form of conversation on your Alabama Crimson Tide. In my own words, the podcast. Yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. Reminding you once again to drop a thumbs up, give a like on the show, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube so that we can continue at TDA giving you the best in news, notes, and analysis on your Crimson Tide. But we dive into this. Alabama's most impactful defensive player will be, who will it be? Who will Alabama's most impactful defensive player be this season? Well, when you look at Alabama, there's a lot that goes into being an impactful defensive player in a complex Nick Saban defense. There's some things, some qualities, some traits, some characteristics that Coach Saban looks into when he wants to have that dynamic, that on fire, that big time, that marquee, that just huge leader on the defensive side of the football. And I'm going to break down some of these characteristics here for you. The first and foremost thing, Nick Saban looks for leadership in a impactful defensive player. Looks for leadership. He's already said in an interview on ESPN, First Take on ESPN, where he talked about the guy that we want our younger players to follow is somebody that is going to go to class, going to take that education seriously, going to take his role on the field seriously, going to be a kind of a speaker of the group, if you will, a guy that, you know, when he opens his mouth, everybody pays attention because that guy's been there, that guy's done that, and he's done everything the right way. So leadership plays a big role when you look at Nick Saban, Coach Saban finding that marquee, impactful defensive player. The second one is communication. Being able to communicate across the board. Nick Saban is the master communicator, whether it's communicating what type of suit he wants to wear in different events, or whether it's communicating to his coaches what type of defensive system or offensive system he wants done in the team meeting room, or if it's communicating to players how he wants them to play and attack certain situations. Coach Saban wants his defensive impact player to not only bark the calls or get the calls made across the formation, but make sure that the defensive linemen are in the right gap. Other players are in the right gap. Secondaries in perfect unison. When that opposing offense is making checks across the line of scrimmage, that marquee, impactful defensive player is playing chess. He's making sure that the checks that the defense make counteract what the offense is doing, and the defense is still on time, on cue to make the play. So communication is a big one. A strong tackler. Nick Saban loves guys that can tackle, that can break down, that can wrap up, that can make the tackle in space, take away the angle from the opposing offensive player, wrap up, not trying to do all this, poke the ball out, force a fumble, but wrap up and make the fundamentally sound tackle. Nick Saban is one for instincts and attention to details. Be instinctive. If you know that's your gap, hit that gap. If you know that's your guy, take that guy. If you know that's your play, own up and dominate that play. Also, attention to details. If you see something on film that the opposing offense is running that week, pay attention to that. Be ready to communicate that to the rest of the defense. Have everybody in pocket. So the instincts and the attention to details. Nick Saban high on those two. Toughness. Nick Saban loves toughness. He wants his marquee defensive player, his impactful star, to be tough, to be physical. When you come up to hit somebody, hit them, bring the bad intentions. Make the pads pop. Make the effort play. Make the tackle for loss. Make the sack. Be absolutely tough with it. Have no holds barred. Taking no prisoners. So toughness is a key thing for the impactful player. Being battle tested. Being able to fight through adversity is another thing. Nick Saban wants his impact player to be one that has gone, through some things, whether it be in the personal life, whether it be on the field, and grew up from that, became better from that, and had that type of guy to where the players look at it and being like, well, if so-and-so went through that, if so-and-so encountered that, if so-and-so endured that, and he came out on the better end, that's somebody I can look up to. That's somebody I can emulate. That's somebody I can imitate. That's somebody I need to follow. So being a battle-tested guy in terms of facing adversity, another thing Nick Saban likes, and last but not least, Nick Saban likes productivity. You leading that team in tackles, you leading that team in tackles for loss, you leading that team in sacks, you're being productive in the game, you're being productive on the field, you're being productive in the weight and the training aspect, and sometimes being productive even means you assisting others in being productive. So that's just some things that Coach Saban looks for in his marquee defensive player for Alabama. But we're going to take a final break here on In My Own Words, the podcast. Upon our return, we will wrap this up and put a pretty bow on this Wednesday edition of shows after this.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
As we're back into the show, ladies and gentlemen, in My Own Words, the podcast, yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And after discussing some traits, some characteristics that, Nick Saban wants to see in his marquee, impactful defensive player, it's time for us to name who that guy is. And this guy has all of the traits that I mentioned in the previous segment. That guy, to me, none other than one Dylan Moses. I think Dylan Moses is the most impactful. He will be the most impactful defensive player this year simply because he's got the leadership. He's got the leadership. He is a very strong communicator. He is an elite tackler. We saw in 2018, led the team in tackles with 86 and, 10 tackles for loss. Very instinctive. He pays close attention to details. Dylan Moses is kind of a perfectionist. Very tough-minded player is Dylan Moses. Productivity, productive. In terms of adversity, Dylan Moses just faced adversity this past season. Not able to play his junior year due to a serious knee injury, an ACL tear to his knee in August camp last year, which sidelined him for that entire season. So Dylan is somebody that, if he can shake off the rust from last season, which I believe he will, he is somebody that's going to put everybody in the right spot on the field, communicate those things across the board. He is an upstanding young man, a high-character young man, a high-class athlete. So he's a guy that when he speaks, people are going to listen. People are going to follow his lead. People are going to want to emulate and be like him, the younger guys. In terms of tackling, he is going to break down and make the tackles in space, whether it's on a running back, whether it's on a receiver, whether it's on a quarterback trying to escape out of the pocket. The guy is very, very productive. Going back to his freshman year, Dylan Moses had 30 tackles, 5.5 of those for loss, 1.5 sacks, made the freshman All-SEC team. Of course, the 86 total tackles in the 2018 season. So that would be my guy, Dylan Moses, the most impactful defensive player this year. But as always, you want to know the best or have the best or acquire the best in news, notes, and information on your Crimson Tide. You can do this by downloading the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app, and it's simple, people, very easy to do. You can get this by Go into your iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, download that from there. Your Google Play Store if you just so happen to have the Android phone. The podcast options for your audio listening pleasures if those so happen to be iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast.fm, TuneIn Radio, or iHeartRadio. Folks, we got you covered right here. If the good Lord sees fit on Friday, we will be back. I will be back after the first day of spring ball, delivering you the hottest show on the streets in my own words, the podcast. But as always, I leave you with my 3 final things here. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, be sure love them husbands. Children, it is Wednesday. Still get that homework done. Do what you gotta do. Get your 3 hearty meals a day, your 3 hearty laughs a day. Until next time, folks, I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, and you've been listening to In My Own Words. Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in the Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.